No one saw this coming as we are now just a few weeks away from opening day. The Jays are forced into multiple impossible decisions, but one player has forced the Jays' hand and has made things very interesting for this team. We're going to break down exactly who that is and discuss what it means going forward, as no one expected this. But before we get into it, a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. If you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over today, obviously, as it pertains specifically to the Jays opening day lineup. There's one particular player that has caught headlines as of late, and it is none other than Addison Barger. Now, coming into spring, Addison Barger, especially from the takes that I've had and a lot of fans around the Jays, he didn't have a ton of expectations coming in. He started off pretty cold with the Jays, of course, but now his spring so far, you see the stats from Chris Black. He has a 381 average, a 435 on base, near a 1200 OPS. He's leading the team in exit velocity, and he had a home run yesterday, if you were watching the game against the Astros, that was not only absolutely crushed, but was near 450 feet, the hardest track ball of Addison Barger's career that was in play. And again, Addison Barger is going to be in a very interesting spot because the Jays are forced into a pretty rough decision with him. They have so many players that we'll dive into later in this video that are working for spots, whether that be Alan Roden, Davis Schneider, all these different players. And Addison Barger has the benefit of being able to play all over the field. We saw him play in the outfield last year. We saw him play some third base, some second base. We saw him play everywhere in the minors and, of course, some different positions in the majors. But Barger is a guy who has some of the highest upside in the organization, but at the same time, we saw last year when he's hit sub 200 and was just, they gave him plenty of chances last year and it didn't really work out. And for Addison Barger, I don't think anyone saw him having this good of a spring coming because a lot of players were down on him. A lot of analysts and fans were down on him simply because he looked so bad in the MLB last year. It's not like he was completely awful. He still hit balls fairly hard, but he struck out a lot. His eye was questionable. All these things. We'll also dive into Jake Bloss later in the video. But again, if you missed the home run, I recommend going and watch it. It was yesterday. Bo hit a home run out of the park. You had Addison Barger crush one. 113.7 miles per hour off the bat, 421 feet. And you can see here from Thomas Hall, you won't see many balls get hit this far in Dunedin, even from a left-handed batter. So the ball was crushed, but that now brings up a bigger question here, and that is surrounding Addison Barger. You look at his season last year with the Toronto Blue Jays, and he played a third of the season, a bit, less than a third of the season. 69 games, 197 batting average with, of course, a 250 on base percentage. So for a guy who played, over a third of the season, almost half, he put up a very respectable, numbers in AAA, but in the major league level, he did not have very good numbers at all. You look at his AAA numbers, 857 OPS, which is pretty good. That's why he got called up in general. And let's not forget, he's 24 years old now, and he's following the Spencer Horwitz approach to a degree, except the difference was Spencer Horwitz got called up and was actually productive at the plate. He had 7 home runs, 28 RBIs. He still showed some of that power, albeit 7 home runs in 69 games, nothing crazy, but it's also nothing to scoff at either. He put up a 600 OPS. He had little spurts, but he struck out a lot. He didn't walk a ton, and his batting average was very bad, right? 197. And that now begs the question of where are you going to play him this season? Because again, in AAA, he put up some very solid numbers, although he was hotter at times. You think back to his 2023 season, he put up a 745 OPS. Like, he hasn't really had any great seasons since 2022 with AA when he had, a 912 OPS, right? And now as you start to look at where the Jays fit, where he fits in the Jays. Now, whether you want to pencil him as an outfielder or third baseman, whatever it ends up being, Ernie Clement has that third base spot on opening day secured. According to all accounts, Ben Nicholson-Smith, even John Schneider has come out and basically said that. So as you look at Addison Barger's stats, yes, he is absolutely mashing in spring training. But where do you place him once the regular season starts? Are you going to be able to open up spots for him? And you look at what you assume, again, I use this all the time, shout out to Fangraphs for it. You assume the opening day lineup, and again, I don't think Joey Loperfido is going to be starting in center field. It's probably Dalton Varsho with Will Wagner at DH. But regardless, you have Miles Straw, Davis Schneider, and one other bench player. Let's say Joey Loperfido. And Ben Nicholson-Smith spoke about it on a podcast. He basically was talking about it, and of course on his At the Letters podcast, he was speaking about, and he has been for a while, all the different reporters, whether Davis Schneider will make the team out of camp or not. Let me know down below, do you think he should? He's had a very good spring as well. But B, where Joey Loperfido even starts all this. Like, I think there's a good chance that Joey Loperfido, depending on what Dalton Varsho's health is, starts the season in AAA alongside Davis Schneider, which could open up some spots there for Addison Barger. But the question is, if you're going to call up Addison Barger and have him go, wouldn't you almost rather have Alan Roden? And we know that they play similar positions, assuming you want to pencil in Barger as an outfielder, wherever you pencil him in, because he's kind of a super utility guy in the sense of No, he's not great defensively, but he still can play multiple positions, or at least they get him to play multiple positions. You have Barger playing really well, but you also have Alan Roden, who Ross Atkins specifically called out and said he's a guy to keep an eye out on. I think they'd probably rather give Alan Roden a shot compared to Addison Barger, simply because of how Addison Barger has performed at the major league level so far, which has been very, very poor, right? So now I think that if you are at the spot now where you need to open up a spot, whether that be, I mean, there's a chance that David Schneider starts the season in AAA, even though he's been playing well in spring training. I think if you're going to open up a spot, it would have to be for Alan Roden. A couple other things I want to bring up here, specifically regarding Addison Barger. You can see here from Roden to Elvis' tweet here. And this is back in 2024. Addison Barger pairs elite bat speed with well above average exit velocities. He also possesses 68th percentile speed and 99th percentile arm strength. His toolbox is loaded. Can he unlock it in 2025? We know his arm strength is absolutely fantastic. He's not great at reading balls. He's not great at actually, defense. But you can see here, it's an interesting point. You don't give up on players like this. You give them more time because it takes longer to harness these tools. I don't care about the low floor. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I care about ceiling. What does it look like if it all comes together? Now, obviously, if it all comes together for Addison Barger, he could be a 900, 950 OPS player if everything works with a solid arm and okay defense. But we'll see what we saw last year. If it's bad and his floor is a unserviceable player with negative WAR, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But it's a good point here as it pertains to his actual ceiling and the fact giving these guys more time. The problem is I just think they'd rather give a lot of those looks to guys like Alan Roden. That being said, you can see here Addison Barger's hit a home run that came off of the bat at 114 miles per hour. This dude can hit balls as hard as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the same type of bat speed. I'm begging everyone to stay patient with this guy and let him develop at his own pace. Monster ceiling. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. Let me know down below. Do you want Addison Barger to start on the team? Would you rather a guy like Alan Roden get that spot? Because I can't imagine a world where they field both Barger and Alan Roden, but I guess there is a possibility if you think Addison Barger can play backup third base, whatever you end up being, because Alan Roden is going to be playing outfield. He's not going to be playing the infield unless they try to open up some spots for him. But then that begs the question that we've been talking about all spring training long about David Schneider, even Miles Straw to a degree, because Will Wagner's going to make the team. A catcher is going to make the team, probably Tyler Heineman. Joey Loperfido, probably, depending on how Dalton Varsho's health is. Like, I do think there's a world where Joey Loperfido starts the year in AAA, but at the same time, he's 25 years old. You got him in that Kikuchi package. Maybe they'd rather see him develop. There's just a huge logjam. I also think there's a good chance a trade goes down to open up some of these spots, and it's going to be interesting. So you look at the opening day lineup, and it starts to become very interesting. Now, let's say this is probably going to be the opening day lineup against a left-handed pitcher, so maybe not the opening day lineup, but Bo, Vladdy, Santander, Springer, Jimenez, Kirk, Will Wagner, Ernie Clement, Joey Loperfido. Now, I think if you replace Dalton Varsho with Joey Loperfido, Will Wagner, I think, could also lead off against righties, and then against lefties, you probably lead off Bo Bichette. You want Andres Jimenez in front of Alejandro Kirk so he can actually steal bases, because if you have Kirk ahead of Andres Jimenez, we know one of the best tools of Jimenez is stealing bases, and obviously then if Kirk gets on base, you're going to be absolutely logjam. So you want Jimenez there. Springer in the cleanup hole is really scary. I'd probably switch him and even Will Wagner, but it'll be interesting at the end of the day, and obviously George Springer having a bounce back year and hoping that Anthony Santander, his switch hitting abilities open up the lineup a little bit more. But a couple other things before I wrap up. Jake Bloss, just want to give a quick shout out to him after a horrific spring training so far. In yesterday's game, went 3 innings and struck out 5. He looked fantastic. And of course, you have 7 whiffs on 9 swings for Jake Bloss off his slider. So some upside here. The Jays are continuing to play a bunch of spring training games. They play one today as well. They have most of their regular season lineup out there. Most of these games are every other day. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news, as we are now just a few weeks away from opening day. About a bit over 2 weeks away, less than 3 weeks. So buckle up. It'll be a long season. But at the end of the day, hopefully the Jays can get some value out of Addison Barger and Alan Roden this year.